Hey, welcome back. So on this, we've got 2w squared minus 4w minus 3 equals 0. So a equals 2, b equals negative 4, and c equals negative 3. b squared minus 4ac then is negative 4 squared. Again, that's very important. When you have a negative value of b, very important you put that inside parentheses when you square it, because it makes it positive. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. Minus 4 times a is 2, and c is negative 3. And so I get negative 4 squared is positive 16. And I've got a negative times a negative is positive, so that's 4 times 2 times 3, or plus 24. And that would be 40. And so our quadratic formula is negative x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And negative b, since b this time is negative 4, the opposite of negative 4 is positive 4, plus or minus the square root of 40. And this is all over 2a, and a is 2. So I'm going to look off here to the side and say, wait, 40 is 2 times 20. 20 is 2 times 10. 10 is 2 times 5. And I have one pair of 2's that I can bring out from under that radical. So I can rewrite this as 4 plus or minus 2 root 10. And that's all over 2 times 2, or 4. That means I've got 4 plus, that's 4, I'm going to write it as 4 over 4 plus 2 root 10 over 4. Or 4 over 4 minus 2 root 10 over 4. And then I'm going to simplify these to 1 plus 1 root 10, or just simply root 10 over 2, or 1 minus root 10 over 2. And those would be the two solutions. Now, your teacher may ask you to determine what the decimal values of those are. And if that's the case, you can just plug that into your calculator. 1 plus the square root of 10 divided by 2. And this is approximately 2.58, or 1 minus the square root of 10 divided by 2, and that's negative 0.58. And so depending on what you're being asked for, you might get the decimal version, or you might get a simplified radical version, and you may be asked to do both, so be prepared to do both. All right, the next one. A equals negative 1, B equals 4, C equals negative 4. So the discriminant B squared minus 4AC, B is 4 squared minus 4 times A, and A is negative 1, and C is negative 4. And so I've got 4 squared, which is 16, and then I have a negative times a negative times a negative. There's 3 negatives, so that result of that multiplication here, this one, is going to be negative. And 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. So it's going to be minus 16. And 16 minus 16 is 0. So in our quadratic formula, we would say x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Again, it may seem tedious to write this down, but the more that you write it down and say it out loud as you're writing it like I am, the more that you'll be able to commit it to memory and remember it years down the road. So I've got this is equal to negative b. The opposite of b is negative 4, since b is positive 4, plus or minus the square root of 0 all over 2 times a, and a is negative 1. Now, plus or minus the square root of 0, the square root of 0 is just 0. And so this just goes away. And you got plus or minus nothing there. So you've got negative 4 all over 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 2. Why do we only have one solution? Well, you'll recall in part 1 of this video, when your discriminant is equal to 0, that means you only have one real root. And in this case, the real root was just 2. All right, let's look at E here. I'm going to rewrite this as r squared minus or plus something equal plus 9 equals 0. Now, you might say I didn't really rewrite it, but there's no middle term, which is the same as saying our middle term is 0r. And so now that makes it easier for me to say, okay, A is 1, B is 0, and C is 9. And so my discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, and b is 0, so that's 0 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 9. And 0 squared is just 0, it cancels that. Minus 4 times 1 times 9 is negative 36. And so in our quadratic formula, let's go over this again. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Sorry, that's the song that goes with it. That helps you knock yourself out. Okay, x equals, so negative b, negative 0, doesn't change for anything really, plus or minus the square root of negative 36. And this is all over 2a, or 2 times 1. 36 is a perfect square. This minus 0 doesn't change anything there. So we're just going to have plus or minus the square root of negative 36. And the square root of 36 is 6. But since it's negative, it's going to be plus or minus 6i. The negative under the radical has to come out as the imaginary unit I. And that's all over 2 times 1, or just 2. Now, 2 goes into 6, that's 3 times. So this is positive 3, because 2 goes into 6, 3. It's 3i, or negative 3i. That's the plus version, and this is the minus version. So those are our two solutions, plus 3i or minus 3i. All right, finally, F, we've got let me get back to where we were at. I'm going to rewrite this as 6u squared minus 2u plus 0 equals 0. And I added this plus 0 on there so that we know what C is. So A equals 6, B equals negative 2, and c equals 0. So the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, b is negative 2 squared minus 4 times a, and a is 6, and c is 0. Now, negative 2 squared is positive 4. But when you multiply by 0, this whole term becomes 0. All of this becomes 0. So you just got 4. So our discriminant is 4. And if we go to our quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And the opposite of b, negative b, or the opposite of b, is positive 2 this time, because the negative of negative 2 is positive 2, plus or minus the square root of the discriminant, which is 4, all over 2 times a, and a is 6. So what do I get? I get 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2 all over 12. And this is the same as 2 twelfths plus 2 twelfths, or 2 twelfths minus 2 twelfths. And 2 twelfths plus 2 twelfths is 4 twelfths. But 2 twelfths minus 2 twelfths is just 0. And 4 twelfths can simplify. You can divide both 4 and 12 by 4, so this becomes 1/3 or 0. So those are our two solutions. All right. Go do the quadratic formula. Practice, practice, practice. You're going to be fine.